Welcome and thank you for choosing True Grit, the show about what it really takes to rise, rebuild, and stay the course when life hits hard. I'm Kalish Morrow, a coach, storyteller, and believer in the kind of strength you can't fake. Around here, we talk about real people, real stories, and the lessons that shape us, from resilience and mindset to health and healing, because grit isn't about grinding harder, it's about who you become when you don't quit. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. My name is Kalish Morrow, and I am your host for True Grit podcast. And today I am joined by Brian Hurst of Uplifted Fitness, and just a good friend of mine, another good coach that I am so happy to share this space with and be encouraged that there are other good coaches out there in this space. He's a personal trainer, nutrition coach. He specializes in metabolic restoration. And I really want to just give you a big welcome to the show, Brian. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I think to get started, I want to get into a little bit of your background. You've had a big journey to get to where you are, and being able to use that experience and bring that to your clients and really help them through their own personal journey. It just seems like you really truly understand what they're going through and can offer so much support through that experience or from the experience. And I would love to kind of hear more about what kicked this off for you. Like why the big change and then the shift to personal trainer. So I will let you have the floor and have at it.
All right. So I was like always the fat kid growing up, like from like even a young age, and it was really crazy because like I was an only child with a single mom, and my mom would always take me to the store and it would always be like, just get a thing of candy or whatever. And like even at that age, I realized what I was doing to myself, but I'm like, I'm young, like, I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it. And that like progressed. I mean, like I was overweight from the time I was like 7 or 8 years old all the way through high school. And then I started partying on top of it at a young age, and it all compounded. And then from there, I hit the college age, except for I wasn't going to college, but I was going to all the parties. So it was like, not only am I slowing my metabolism down by drinking alcohol like almost every night, but also all the bullshit food. Like we just order whatever was cheap, get pizzas or freaking 7-Eleven at midnight, all the crazy stuff. And then I wound up getting really bad into drinking, and thankfully that chilled out. But I had this apartment, and I was like, I had this, we were right next to a hotel. So they would have free shuttle rides to the casinos, which was dollar beers. So I was hitting that all the time because, hey, free DD and dollar beers. And I kept that up for a while. And then shortly after I met my wife, moved up to the UP, and from there, I just, I was like, I was here, and I was just like dating life and fresh, cooking all the time, all this crazy stuff, deep fried everything. And a few years passed, we decided to get married. Right before our wedding, I had a doctor's appointment, and I stepped on the scale at the appointment. I had no idea that I had let myself go this far, but I was up to 336 pounds. It was just like, okay, I have to change something. So we went on our honeymoon. I'm like, this is going to be the last time I go out and do this. So I went after that, started getting serious about fitness. I started walking all the time. And then it was like, okay, I didn't really know what to do nutritionally. And back then, the advice wasn't the greatest. Everybody was doing the eat less, move more, which works. But at the same time, it's like nobody taught you back then that you need to actually build strength and still fuel yourself. So I'm like, okay, let's look up, what's the lowest a man can eat. So it's like telling me 1,500 calories. So I immediately, just because I wanted to get the weight off, I shot into 1,500 calories right out the gate from 336 pounds, probably eating 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day at this point before that. So it was like a huge drop. And I mean, I wasn't tracking the most accurately, so I was probably a little above that. But then it just, it spiraled. I got a gym membership. And of course, I didn't know how to strength train, but I'm like, I see all these machines. I started doing the rowing machine, which, it was good at first, and then I got really into it, started doing hit cardio on it, and I would eventually got to a point where I was doing like 2 hour sessions of hit cardio and
Wow.
just nonstop. And I wound up developing a severe eating disorder, but also had some exercise bulimia to the point where I would eat like I would feel so bad. I would guilt trip myself if I ate something off plan. And I remember one day I ate some ice cream and I wound up going to the gym after and pretty much did a 2 hour hit cardio session on the rowing machine. And it was just like, oh my God, what am I like? I look back now and I'm like, what was I doing to myself? And then after so long, I got to a point where I actually started fasting. And that's when things got really messed up. I started doing like the first started doing the 8 hour fast and then it started like progressing. I'd do 16 and then I got to one meal a day. But then I remember I got really into it. I started doing like 3 day fasts and it was just horrible. Like I was so irritable and I was like addicted to watching the scale drop at that point. So it was like a dopamine hit every time I seen that go down. But then it was just like I would stall because I didn't know the difference between fat loss and weight loss. So I'm just like, let's
Uh,
keep going. And then it got to a point where I started getting sick from all the fasting to where I'm glad I stopped. But I remember one day it got so bad, I was sitting at the table with my wife and I'm like, we got to go get something to eat. I'm like, I wound up taking her out to a local place getting stromboli because I'm like, I need fats. Like my shit is tanked. So I'm like, give me like the cheesiest, greasiest thing you can give me right now. And I wound up feeling better. And that's when I realized I'm like, I need to change something because at this point I had lost a ton of weight, but I still didn't like what I saw because the way I lost the weight was not sustainable. And it was just like, I should have been focused on building muscle. So then I still struggled with it for years after that, but I wound up discovering the reverse diet through actually the Mind Pump guys. Thank God. So I tried that out a couple times. I got up to like 2,200 calories my first time and built some muscle and started feeling good. But then I was still nervous for years to really push it a lot further. So I was like stuck at that 2,200 maintenance for a while. And eventually I'm just like, screw it. Let's give in. Let's give it a shot. And I wound up building a bunch of muscle and I wound up like, okay, so this feels so much better. I'm not hating myself all the time. My energy's up and I just got into it. And then fast forward a couple of years, I was like, you know, I have such a crazy mind for this stuff. Like people can usually tell me their problems and I'm like, okay, this is exactly what's going on. So I'm like, people are coming to me for advice. I might as well become a coach because like I'm already have the education from living through it, but then I'm like, let's get certified and do all that. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it.
yeah, it is just so wild too that admirable that you didn't stay stuck in that trap of basically a bad relationship with nutrition and exercise. I mean, I think that we see that a lot in this space where it just starts getting really abused because people don't really understand what the education just really isn't out there about it. And that you were able to turn it around and be, get the insight, I guess, from listening to your body and then figuring it out from there. And, somehow coming across the Mind Pump podcast and how that changed. I know that we've, a bunch of the coaches that are in our circles that have come on the show, that this is how we've all connected, was because we've become Mind Pump coaches ourselves, and how much information that I think that we have all been able to glean from learning from people with a lot of expertise in the space, and that it's still just not that common knowledge, and it just blows my mind. But now that you've been able to go ahead and translate that to helping everybody else out with the people that come across you in your world, and supporting them in this journey. It's profound, I think, being able to, again, bring that expertise out into the world. So I'm just excited for you, actually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, but yeah, I just think there's not a lot of information out in the space. Like everybody is still so far behind. Like nutrition and fitness has not changed. The body hasn't changed, but people still believe like, oh, I just gotta restrict. And it's like, no. And I mean, yeah, sure, calorie deficit works and that's what's gonna get you there. But it's like you gotta take your time with it. Like the end is not the end goal. Like what you think when you start is so far different because you're never going to end your journey. It's just progressing
Mhm.
towards different goals, and there's so many like different parts of the journey, and a lot of people don't realize, yeah, you're going to stall out if you go hard. So like when I start my current clients, I don't start with what I mean, yes, it's a diet, but it's not really a diet. But I add in foods because I noticed like when you tell somebody they can't have something, they're going straight for it. They're just like, well, you can't have chocolate. Well, motherfucker, I'm gonna think about candy bars all day.
Yep.
You're not gonna stop me. So instead, I like to progressively add in. I think of it as progressively overloading the diet, but I'm like, okay, this is where you add, and that's a big part is meeting people where they're at because otherwise, you're just like trying to overhaul and it's just too much for them to take on. So usually I'll just start with like a simple, like, here's your step goal. You're getting 2,000 steps a day. Let's go for 3,000 this week. This is your protein. All right. So I want you to add in one serving of your favorite meat, any Whole Foods, and you just can keep adding this in. Eventually, through this process, they're so flooded with the Whole Foods that, they're so full at the end of the day. And if they do want the, candy bar at the end of the day, go for it. But by then they're satiated and they're not even thinking about it most of the time.
Yeah, it is, we share a lot of the same similar practices with that and finding that, yeah, you can't restrict them. If it doesn't work for us, it's not going to work for other people. I know that you've gotten more into like the mindset coaching and building up that motivation and everything. There is a whole psychology about it. If you restrict somebody and you tell somebody that they can't have it, there is usually an automatic rebellion against it. And the reason for that is because that takes away their autonomy. And when you take somebody's autonomy away, that is going to be this immediate tank in motivation for them. And people want to feel in control of their situation. And so yeah, you've caught on to that. And but and obviously like through your own experience too, like you you went through so much restriction for so long. But and but it was still self-imposed, obviously. Like you were still in control, but kind of not, I guess, because of the addiction to it, correct?
I mean, yes, but also part of it was just the advice at the time. Like a lot of the people, I didn't know who to turn to. So I'm like watching, I don't want to drop any names or anything, but certain people in the bodybuilding space where they're just like, oh yeah, you just need to restrict, restrict, restrict. And like not knowing, I'm like, these guys look amazing. And little did I know, it's like, yeah, okay, these guys build their muscle beforehand. And this is their advice to get just shredded. So it's like, this isn't going to work for the average person. But
Yeah.
here I am, like severely overweight. And a lot of it, though, too, I had a gut health doctor. I was just talking about this the other day, and she was like, had no idea where I came from. I got to 220 pounds, and this was before I had dropped to 180. But she's like, oh, well, you can't have, you need to lay off the red meat. You can't have dairy. And basically, like, I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna eat vegetables. And like my mindset at that time, I literally, that's what I was doing. I was like, I was still tracking my calories, and there was days I was eating like 500 calories, and it was all coming from frickin' plant-based stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I look back and I'm like, what were you doing?
Mm.
But it's just, yeah, I think a lot of it is the influence of the people that you trust. I mean, like a doctor and stuff like that is like, you take their word for gold if you're not educated. And it's just like, but she wasn't aware of my mindset at the time either. So that was part of it is like, she's like, you need to lose weight. And I'm like, thinking in my head, I'm like, bitch, I lost over 100 pounds. What are you doing? But Yeah, so that drove me down another rabbit hole because it was just like, man, it's like when you're impressionable like that, you trust people that have authority, so it's like really hard.
Well, and I would say too that there seems to be, and I'll speak for myself, a thing of desperation too. Like you get a little frustrated, you just want to see the change happen so quickly. A little bit of desperation because we don't know any better at that time. We don't have the training, so we're just kind of reaching out to whatever information is available to us, and whatever is a new thing. You've got the doctor now telling you like, oh well, we'll get rid of dairy and red meat, and you're like, oh, that's a new thing to try out, and I was just thinking about the other day, there's a weight loss coach that I follow, and he's really good. Like he'll pull up other people's videos and then critique them and give feedback on diets. And a lot of time it's good. And then other times he's like, let's talk about this. But he pulled up the so-called, gut health expert, and she was talking about how you shouldn't drink water when you eat because it hurts your digestion. And then he kind of breaks it all down of like, how wrong she is and all of that. And I was like, I fell for that years and years ago. I actually fell for that. I was just wanting another change, and I came across some sort of thing about like don't have water with your food, and whatever the reasons were. So I gave it a shot. Luckily, I only did it for like a couple days because I was miserable at meals, not having any kind of liquid. But it's so many of these silly little things that are coming up, and things that don't even really move. Maybe there is some truth to it. There is some scientific mechanism, but it's not something that moves the needle very much. Yet we're willing to try it.
Definitely. Actually, that's one thing I'm going to start adding into my content because I see so much of it. There's this guy and he's doing this. Like, you ever see that trend where they're once a day, once a week, once a month, and they're just being like idiots on camera and like saying, you can only have this food so much. And then like they get to the once a week and he pulls up a Diet Coke. And I'm like, is that really gonna hurt you? There is 0 calories. And it's like I know so many people that have lost a shit ton of weight just from that switch alone. Is if you go from regular soda to diet, it's like you're on average, if you're drinking one a day, you're gonna cut out enough to drop a pound a week on that alone, if not more.
Mhm.
And it's just
Ooh,
like, holy crap. But yeah,
you're
no, I'm
getting
getting
into
ready to call some stuff.
controversial. You're
Yeah,
gonna,
I don't care. No, I'm about to start losing my filter on social because there is some idiots out there.
yeah,
No
I
offense,
agree.
but yeah, there's just so much bad advice out there.
Yeah, and I think that since you brought it up, we should kind of clarify what actually does happen when you switch over to a diet soda. And actually, I'll invite you to share about that. I know what you're going to say, but I want you to. I want you to share it because just so people aren't going like, wait a minute, aspartame and all that stuff, it's bad for you. It's going to hurt you. It's actually going to make you gain weight, which we know isn't. The studies say otherwise. But I love you to go ahead and expound upon it.
Yeah, so like there's a few things that go on. First of all, especially if someone's craving that sweet fix, it is an easy swap, instead of pounding a full flavored Pepsi or whatever, or reaching for some snacks, which, honestly, if you're hitting your protein goal, first of all, who cares? But it stops that sweet craving. And then like just the calorie drop. I know my cousin actually, she texted me the other like a month ago. She's like, I'm down 10 pounds. And I'm like, holy shit, I mean, she'll ask me for advice here and there. And all she did was started walking more and she cut out, she drank 2, 3 Cokes a day and she switched to Coke Zero. And all of a sudden, in a month, she lost 10 pounds. And that was it, just walking and swapping.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just the calorie drop from that alone. You gotta think. I mean, I don't know specifically off the top of my head, but like I think, most 12-ounce sodas are in the 150, sometimes 200 calorie range. And if you swap that from zero and you're doing that, 7 days a week, that's quite a bit of calories right there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and like you're saying, it takes care of that sweet tooth fix right there, and you're getting the 0 calories while you're at it. The negative impact that you get from the ingredients is negligible to the positive impact you get from reducing the overall caloric intake if you're always over consuming on calories.
Yes, and like they've done studies on it where it's you would have to drink, I can't remember, but it was an insane amount, like pretty much like I want to say it was like over a 24 pack a day to even see the negative side effects from it. And I know it was way more than that, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was just like, if someone's drinking that much, it's like, holy crap. Like, yeah, it's just like humanly impossible to, I mean, not impossible, but you would have to really be trying. And then that is like the course of time doing that over and over repeatedly. Like, I couldn't even imagine drinking that much to see those effects in one day, let alone every day. So the amount of calories you're dropping just from that alone is huge.
No, yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate you bringing it up so we can have get to talk about that a little bit. I do feel for people, and we've been in that space before, where you're just lost in all of the misinformation that's out there and all of the fear mongering. And I did the same thing of avoiding different Diet Cokes and stuff. And eventually I built up a different habit. I actually love water now, and I will go ahead and get like the Topo Chico type waters, sparkling
Oh my
waters, because
God,
they have
yes, I love that stuff.
great flavor and a ton of like they're just the bubblies, the seltzer part of it. It's like it's very satisfying, and I almost feel like I'm having some sort of soda, but there's nothing there. And so I like to encourage people to kind of switch over to something like a sparkling water that has flavor, and you got nothing. You don't even have all the other crazy ingredients in there too.
Yes, yeah, I was doing the liquid deaths there for a while, and then they started adding sweeteners, so I got out of that. But I still
Mm.
like I keep diet soda in the house because my wife drinks it, and I'm just like I'll still have some. I usually have like one a day or two maybe, but I really don't
Yeah.
care.
Well, so I was going to switch gears a little bit, because in our conversations, you started doing some more deep diving into your own psyche, essentially, of learning a little bit more about the why, and some self exploration behind the habits. Is from what I remember you describing. I would really love to hear about that deep dive. I'm not sure if you've really talked about it much, other than just to be like, this is what I've been doing. And so I'm going to kind of put you on the spot and, and
Man,
let you get
so
into that. And we could dialogue on it too, since I know it's something that you're more and more interested in it.
oh yeah, so I mean like that's the biggest thing is all right, so if I get a client in, first thing I'm asking them is why do you want to do this? Because that way you can always connect it back to, hey, remember this? This is exactly what like for me, it's my kid. Like I will never go back to how I
Mm.
was because of my son, my wife, and family. And I'm like, I want to be the best version of myself and I want to be around for my son. That's my life. And I think a lot of it is just connecting it to the why and bringing that person back into it. But also there's, the aspect of the all or nothing dieting. And I feel like that is like the most toxic thing in our space, in my opinion, because
Mhm.
if you restrict someone, they develop this horrible relationship with it, and then they feel like a failure the second they do anything that's off plan. And it's like I did it myself for years where it was just like, okay, I had something, whatever it may be, a piece of cake or whatever. And then I'm like, oh, well, you know what? I had one. I might as well eat two, three more and sabotage my week. And it's like, if you can plan for that to be in your plan, it's just so powerful. Like I tell my clients all the time, it's like I don't care. Like I'll have them, especially when they first start. I had a chocolate bar or whatever, and it's like that's okay. We just move on
Mhm.
from here and proceed with what we've set out to do. And that's why the protein goal has been like such a huge thing, is just adding into the diet week after week. Once I got that down, I added another piece, and eventually it's like they don't want it. Like I had a client come to me, and I'm not even joking you. This lady would eat 2 jars of queso a day, like the little
Oh,
Tostinos, like
I
family size
remember that
queso.
story.
Yeah, and I'm like, so we started adding into her diet, and eventually, she still ate it, but it was just like eventually it it died down to where it was like, it was more of an accessory and not a meal.
And I mean, I feel that lady. I could down some queso like no other. And probably
It
on
is.
repeat.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's still part of my diet. Like that was one of those things I started added in after like I was done with the crazy doctor ladies. And we're gonna add in some, like it is the most processed liquid crap you can get, but I'm like, I'm just gonna slap a little bit on a taco and go for it.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, it's staying away from that restrictive thing of still being able to
yes,
to bring those things in and enjoy life, but then also not go overboard when it gets really crazy. So, yeah, not go overboard with it, because you've got a little bit more self-control going on simply because you've like you said, you've added in these other layers, so you're not having this just maddening craving happening anymore.
yeah, definitely. It's like, I don't know. There's just so many things you can, and it's like, I feel like most people, they want to start with a diet. And I think that's the biggest problem right there. And it's just like, you need to build the lifestyle, you need to build habits. And it's just like, there's so many little habits, pick one, one thing you're going to benefit from, one thing you can stick to, build that. Once that becomes second nature, you add in another, and it just gets this big snowball effect that will get you to your goals way faster than starting and stopping over. I hate to say it, but every Monday, the cliche,
Uh-huh.
but it's so true though.
Yeah, I find that it's a just a form of self-sabotage, almost like giving yourself the permission to just go ahead and let loose again. It's okay though. I'll go ahead and start over on Monday and try to avoid that guilt. But then Monday comes along and you actually do feel there is that a little bit of guilt because that's when reality hits and you're evaluating things and realizing, oh, I'm not as far along as I would like to be. And it's because I keep, I can't stay away from the cake or I can't stay away from the queso. And yeah, and it's just like this do loop of self-sabotage.
Yeah, and there is one habit that I have done with my clients with that because I'm like, all right, because they initially they will have that guilt, even though I'm telling them, hey, you can have this. Let's just focus on this protein or fiber goal, whatever we might be working on. But you can absolutely have that in your plan. We just got to make sure it's accounted for and, be honest about it. But like some of them, they still get that. So I'll do two things. Usually I'd like to try this first to where it's like, okay, why don't you go, if you have it and you get that feeling of guilt, like you're going back for it, go take 10 minutes, go for a walk, brush your teeth, take a shower, whatever you got to do to get your mind off of it, and then come back, have a seat. And if you still want it, have it. But, and then repeat
Mhm.
that process. But sometimes it gets to the point where it's like just keeping it out of the house, if you want it, sure, you can have it, but drive to the store, buy a single serve portion. And a lot of the times that they don't even want to go to the store because they're just like, nope, no, not worth it. And by the
Uh,
time you get in the car and all that, especially, up here, it's winter. So you really don't want to go nowhere unless you have to, but it's just creating that barrier, like but there's no restriction. You can absolutely have it. But it's like I like to
Mhm.
take the path of least resistance first, and then if we have to add things in to create that barrier, then by all means. But I think that was my biggest struggle because, I have a wife and a kid and they like their snacks. And I was just like, oh my God, for the longest time, I'm like, I do really good and then see something and I'll be like, yep, I'm having it. Oh, screwed up. I'm gonna keep going down this path and took a long time to break that.
Yeah, actually, I want to hear more about that because I agree. Like you got to create that friction around on the unwanted thing, and so you figure out ways to do that. Because willpower, everybody thinks that oh, if I just build more willpower, they've done studies on that. That's not a thing that you can really do. So people who seem to have a lot of willpower have actually just built in systems. So it's a whole like don't keep it in the house, and so now I have to go. Now I have to run an errand, and then it gets even worse when you got inclement weather and all of that. However, like you bring up a really good point. However, when you live in a household and if not everybody else is on the same page as you, there's a whole other thing going on. What have you been able to implement in your life that has been able to overcome that and create the systems for yourself when it's still a temptation there, existing temptation?
Yes. So like it started, like I said, with go take 10 minutes and do something because at the point where I was
Yeah.
like, okay, because I was going to sabotage. Like I remember, there were times where I had like one piece of chocolate. Next thing you know, I'm eating like half the dish and I'm like, oh my God. But a part of it is just allowing yourself that permission to have some. And,
Hmm.
it's not the end of the day, the end of the week or whatever, and you have to be able to account for that into your diet as part of and also adding in the whole foods throughout, we talked about that a little bit, keeping that protein goal high, keeping the satiation high, because, if you have that at the end of the day and that's it, no big deal. And I like to allow that flexibility, like 80% of my diet, 80 to 90 comes from whole foods, but I'm gonna have some fun. Like, but nothing is off limits. It's just moderated. Um, and that alone has been huge. But yeah, creating that barrier, like the 10 minutes, like I would usually like summertime, I'd go outside or wintertime, it kind of sucks. So it's like, well, I'm gonna go take a shower or do whatever I got to do for the next day, get my stuff ready, and just something to take your mind off of it for that little bit of time because it's hard once you do it for so long, you'll develop that mindset that it's not that big of a deal, but it takes a while to get there.
Mm.
But it's just throwing in these little pattern interrupts to get your mind in a different place and really to think about it. Like it's not that big of a deal.
I
And
love.
I think a
Oh, go
lot of
ahead.
it's the education though of, teaching because people, I notice this with these people, they teach, oh, you can have this, but you can't have that, or you can have it so often, but they're not teaching their clients about caloric balance and proper nutrition and how things work together. And once you teach that whole ecosystem of how it works is a game changer because then they realize, hey, I can have this so long as this is functioning properly over here, then we're good to go. This isn't going to kill me.
I think that it's you get to be that evidence for people that you can start to build this lifestyle and these systems and the habits around getting past what I think a lot of people would describe as like a food noise or that the food
Hmm.
noise. So, but I love that because you bring up basically it's like the pause. You take that pause. I know for myself, like I haven't really had it wasn't really like a food addiction for me in the past, but it was still like, the hedonistic rewards of having the things that I really shouldn't be having. But more for me it was alcohol. We just built up over years and years just through different kinds of iterations of my life where alcohol was a regular part of it. So then it became a daily thing. Sit down on the sofa, watch movies, and have, whatever beverage, wine, beers, whatever. And, I could easily have like 5 in a night. I wasn't going to bed drunk or anything. So I wasn't like, because it's spaced out over so many hours, so whatever, like,
Hmm.
you're not really going to bed, but it's still like that's a ton of calories, not to mention the major impact of alcohol on your system. But I have found that as I wanted to cut back on it, it has been okay, the evenings when I'm starting to maybe crave it a little bit, like want to go back into that routine, I'll just go, you know what, I'll have it a little bit, maybe after this next show I'll go and I'll have one after that. But then that would happen. I'll be like, I don't know, maybe in a little while longer, I'll go grab a drink. And next thing you know, it's like I either haven't had any at all, or maybe I've just had one before I've gone to bed. Like on a worst case scenario, I've had one. But it is like that pause is really, really powerful. And then, yeah, but it has taken a while though. I was doing that in the beginning and it's just like, it just slowly, it stacks over time. And now I'm like, this isn't difficult for me anymore. I'm not even during the week, I'm not even really wanting the drink or anything.
No, I feel you. It's really weird because I used to drink a lot, and now it's like once in a great while I'll have one. Like, I mean, it's been like 2 months, and I have stuff in the house. I just don't even touch it. But a lot of it is I just don't want it. Like, very rarely, and if I do, it's like one. And it's
Yeah.
just more like the taste. Like I'll put a half a shot of whiskey in a diet Sprite, and I'm like, that's just the flavor at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's become it's become a little bit more of just okay, if we want to go out, and I like it to be it's like a vibe now for me. We go out to a restaurant and there's kind of that vibe, so I want to have a glass of wine. More so than it used to be of just like I just need to have a beverage, that kind of thing. Like I'm having
Yeah.
a bad day and I just want to drink. Yeah, that that self or the coping mechanism that it once was is no longer there for me.
Yeah, that's the thing too. And I think part of it is like once you educate yourself, like what alcohol actually does to your metabolism and how to navigate that, that's a huge piece because a lot of people are like, oh, it shuts your metabolism down. And I mean, yes, it does. But if you're still like, if your goal is to be in a deficit and you're still in a deficit, it's still gonna work. I mean, it's gonna hamper you a little bit, but it's like if you just have one or two and you're still sticking to your plan, you're going to be fine. And I think a lot of people are worried about that too. So that's
Hmm.
one of those things I've been seeing a lot. And I'm like, that's a good point. We better debunk that right now.
Yeah, I think that we often get the people that come in and they're resistant to working with a coach because they think that we're just going to sit there and tell them all the things that they can't do, and but they still want to go out and drink and they still want to be able to do that, and then it just blows their minds when we come in being like, go ahead and do that, but we're going to
Yes.
build the systems that so your life is supporting that, and that's not having the negative impact it once was adding to your life. And you usually find over time that they will start to just change those habits in general, and they don't find the enjoyment that they once did.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's just like, I don't know, because you eventually you find things that replace that dopamine hit. Like for me now, it's working out. I love it. Like I used to drink and the food and all that. Now it's just like I like building muscle. This is fun. I don't know. There's just something about lifting heavy shit and putting it back down that just, it's a rush. Especially that's the big thing too, is once you fall in love with the process, you're unstoppable. Like at that point, it's just like, oh my God. It's like any other thing with dopamine, but you're doing something productive and healthy for your life. And it's just like, it's an adrenaline rush when you like hit a new PR or, hit your goals. It's just like, it's so worth it.
It's nice being able to tick those off, and I guess another reason why it's good to track your progress so that you can see that you are getting better over time, and then you've just done something that you thought was impossible one day, and now here it is, you're doing it.
Yes, yes. And that's the one thing too, is I wish more people would track their own progress because that's the big thing too, is people get hyper addicted to the scale and they're like, I'm not changing. And it's, well, it'll fluctuate up, down. You're holding water, you're building muscle, but it's like you're taking those progress pictures every couple weeks, tracking your lifts and all that. You're going to see the change. And
Mhm.
it's just like there's so much more than the scale. I mean, I have clients where I tell them don't even weigh yourself because otherwise, they get so fixated on that. And it's like you got to get them fixated on something else, the other metrics, even like your energy levels, your sleep, all that. It's
Mhm.
just like there's so much positive benefits, and you're worried about the scale going up. And it's just like, that's crazy to me at this
Yeah.
point. I mean, I get it because that's how everybody's taught is lose weight. And that's why
Mhm.
I don't even like the term weight loss
Yeah.
because it's like you're tying your power to a number when it's like truly the goal is fat loss and muscle gain. So it's like if you do everything perfect, that scale is probably going to stay the same for a while. Like it takes a while.
Yeah, I've been, and maybe I think you bring up a good point that I'll probably start bringing in a little bit more awareness. I'm very intentional too about not using the term weight loss. I'll use fat loss instead
Yes.
because you can lose weight on the scale, but you're losing muscle too. If people go through a really highly restrictive diet, like you found out, you lost a bunch of muscle, and we find that you can lose up to 40% of the weight loss could be muscle, and it's like,
Yes.
okay, you lost weight. That really doesn't, you might even have a higher body fat percentage at that point when you do it that
Yep.
way.
Yep. That's like my last reverse diet. And I'm gonna preface this. If you are not experienced, don't go to the extremes I did. But my last reverse diet, I went from around 2000 to 2700 calories in like 2 months. And the scale literally went up 1 pound.
And
I mean, that is an extreme. I've done this a few times, but like if you're just starting, like try 50 to 100 calories, every week or so and make sure you're hitting your protein, adding carbs. Definitely do it through carbs. As long as you're hitting your fat numbers, you're going to be good. But make sure you're strength training with it, and it's solid. It is solid. Like But yeah, the scale, like literally 700 calorie difference in maintenance and 1 pound up on the scale. Like, how can you not? That is such a good trade-off.
Oh yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to segue over to like that metabolic restoration that is something that you really specialize in and that you've really honed in on how to do that appropriately and that it's not as there's so much generic advice around there. And so walk me through what a reverse diet is and a little bit about what the misinformation is around there. Yeah, let me talk to us about that.
Okay, so reverse diet is basically and this is why I got into it because almost anybody who hires a coach has tried a lot of things. They don't just come to a coach because everything's perfect and they can do it on their own. So they're probably in some degree of metabolic adaptation, which is basically you downregulated your calories and your body's caught up with you. So in order to get the rest of that fat off, we got to focus on building muscle, building that maintenance. So first things first, we got to get that protein goal in because we want to preserve and we want to build muscle. At worst case scenario, preserve, but eventually those calories are going to come up. And once we hit that protein total, we're going to add in carbs because that's going to fuel your muscle. And the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism. So usually we take it week by week, and this is the point where I tell the clients, don't even bother with the scale. Like if you're going to track anything, track your strength, your recovery, how you're feeling, how your clothes are fitting. You can go up a couple pounds and your clothes are going to be fitting way better. But we usually, and it can take 2, 3 months, and a lot of people are really scared of what's going to happen because their mindset is like, we're going to add food. That's complete opposite of what everybody's been taught is eat less, move more, I'll drop weight. Well, when you drop so much weight and you get your maintenance calories, like I've had clients come to me as low as 500 calories a day. And, I cannot ethically put you on a cut as a coach. Like,
Oh
no,
yeah.
I mean, your deficit is eating nothing at that point. So we got to build that up and it can take time. Everybody's different. But the goal generally is 50 to 100 calories added in a week over the course of time. And if you're strength training properly and you have a proper system in place, that's going to go to muscle mostly. Yeah, there's going to be some fat gain, but the muscle should outweigh the fat and your body fat percentage is going to go down as a whole. But through the course of this, you're going to feel better. You're going to start seeing that your clothes are fitting better, your energy's better, body fat percentage is going to drop. And it's going to get to a point you're eating more food. And then when we do go to cut, you're eating more food than you were on your diet. So it doesn't even feel like a diet at that point. And I like to do it through fattier. Usually what I like to do is I like to get the calories up. And when they're like, I can't eat any more food, that's when we switch to like the fattier cuts of meat and stuff like that. And start adding in oils and usually extra virgin olive oil or, some peanut butter or something like that. And because there's so much room to play with, you get more calorically dense whole foods. So you keep playing with it until they get to a point and they're like, dude, I can't eat it anymore. You mean I gotta add more food? I'm like, once we've exhausted the oils and the fattier cuts, and then it's like, okay, so now all I want you to do is I want you to switch that ribeye to a New York strip or a leaner cut. And all of a sudden the weight just starts dropping, but they have enough protein, so they're still building muscle, possibly worst case scenario, they're preserving the muscle. And it's just like this perfect storm. It's a lot to really explain the whole process in one go like this, but it's
Yeah.
all, they feel like they still feel full. They're like, dude, how am I eating this much and still dropping weight? And it's like your metabolism has kicked up. This is what it's like to have a functioning metabolism.
Well, yeah, and there's a whole the way the body adapts to that. I mean, they start moving more often, or they have
Yes.
more movement throughout their day too. So the neat the I'm blanking on what NEAT stands for. Non-exercise activity
Energy
thermogenesis.
thermogenesis.
Yes,
Yes.
There we go. Oh, I'm still waking
Yes.
up this morning.
Yeah.
I mean, just how nice is it though? Because people will talk about how their energy is tanked throughout the day. But yeah, it's just that you're tapped out. You don't have any more in your reserves to go and move. And I mean, of course, there could be people who are overeating that are also tanked, but that's a whole metabolic and a lot of stuff going on that way. But when you're doing a proper reverse diet, like you're explaining, now they're energized and their body's using the calories in the correct way. But they're like, oh, this is the body's like, oh, this is too much. I now need to move more. But like that just adds to your life because you're, oh, I want to
Yes.
get up and do this. I want to clean. I want to take care of these things I've been meaning to take care of, or I have more energy to go and hang out with my friends. Where before I'd be like, I just want to sit on the sofa. Like there's so many benefits to it if you do it the correct way, as you said. What are usually some
Yeah.
of the bad advice that you see
The bad advice for
around
reverse
this
dieting.
specifically? Yeah, because
Yes.
we can get into a lot of other things.
I mean, there's not a lot of people outside of like our circle really that I see talking about it. But I have seen people that are like generalizing it, and that's the big part is it very individual. You can't just be like one size fits all, and you got to meet your own body where it's at. I mean, some people it can take a year, 2 years, depending on how severe it is. But I mean, it took me quite a while, quite a few times reversing and kind of dialing it back to get to where I'm at. But now I can like shoot up, like if I really want to, I can bump up 700 calories in a couple months and it's fine. But my body's been through that cycle enough times to where it knows, hey, this is not danger. But also, I think part of it was I had such a restrictive relationship in the past with food. So my body is also like, hey, this guy's fueling us. We're doing good.
Mm-hmm.
But you can actually get it. And this is crazy because right now I'm coming off a cut, but I'm doing a little mini reverse before I finish my cut. And my body is still in a deficit at this point. I'm building it up, but it's like, yeah, I'm adding more food. My energy's up. I'm still increasing steps and I'm still below my maintenance at this point. I'm probably going to try to catch it up to what my maintenance was before and then finish the cut. But a lot of people are scared of that, and it's like your energy is going to go up, and you're probably still going to be in a deficit as long as you're moving around. And it's like you're not going to want to sit down. I hate because I work a desk job, so it's like I
Mm.
got to get up, be doing stuff, and yeah, I can't stand sitting down.
Yeah, and so yeah, I know that you've been on you've been in a deficit for a while. Obviously, it's not something that we would advise people to do without like some parameters. Explain the parameters around what you've done to help preserve that muscle and keep yourself advancing. And then also what is the benefit of doing that mini reverse when you're still technically doing if you don't mind sharing. What have you been doing with that?
Okay, so first of all, I did a reverse diet last year, and the big thing is number one, I have not stopped strength training the entire time. My protein has been usually like I recommend zero point 0.7 to 1 gram a pound of target body weight for most people. I know my lean body mass right now is 165, so that's like sometimes I'll drop a little below. It's that zero point 0.7 to 1 gram of lean body mass, and then focus on your strength training. But also, here's the thing is because I'm kind of reversing, I like to switch up rep ranges whenever I'm switching a cycle because that's going to actually, your body gets used to the same plan. Like I was doing like 10 to 12 reps or like 8 to 12 depending. But now I'm doing like high reps, 15 reps, slow controlled, control your movement. And then if you're really, feeling adventurous, throw in some isometric holds in there, which is basically pausing the rep at the full contraction. For those who don't understand that, sorry, I like to use big words. But but yeah, and it's just like
Stop moving
progressively,
while you're in the middle of the rep. Basically, yeah, stop moving while you're in the middle of the
yes,
rep. There we
yes,
go.
yes.
And hold it.
But yeah, just gradually adding in. And I'm still cutting through this reverse, and I'm just going to bring it back up to my maintenance. So really, fat loss is still occurring through this whole process. But then once I get back to my maintenance and I decide, hey, we're stable again, I'm going to drop back down to a full cut, 500 calories, and it's going to be as simple as removing olive oil or switching from a fattier cut to a lean cut of meat, and I'm still going to feel full. It's just like right now, I'm working up, but once I get there, it's like, okay, I'm going to be eating a lot of like pork steak or like just different things that are more on the fattier side and just switching. So it's a really crazy, like, it's crazy to think about, but it's like you're probably on the cut eating more volume because you are eating the leaner stuff, throwing in more veggies and just things to keep you
Mhm.
satiated throughout the day. And basically, protein fiber goal, if you have a protein and fiber goal, it's like almost that alone is going to guarantee you a result.
Yeah, solid advice. I've this past week I've just started doing my cut. I'm not going super aggressive, but just like but I don't think that my maintenance was very high to begin with. Probably about like 1800 or so was kind of where I was at, but I just by cutting down a couple hundred calories over the week, like I'm already seeing the scale move. But there is just enough for me to start feeling hungry, but what I've been doing is what you suggested, like I'm adding in more fiber. So I have pickles in the fridge, bringing in more veggies and making sure that I feel fuller. So I'm not getting really, really hungry because I am building a
Yeah.
lot of muscle too while I'm doing it. So I am like just hungry all the time normally.
Yeah, no, I was getting that towards the end of my cut, and that's why I'm like, all right, it's time to start slow reverse. But like, if you stop your reverse before, like, basically you're upping your maintenance, but if you stop it at the right time, you're still going to be in a deficit. And if you just get this perfectly, you're still going to drop fat through the whole process until that last week where you hit a new maintenance, and then it's like, okay, let's get stable, and then drop it again. So.
Yeah. Well, and what's your advice for people finding their maintenance calories?
Man, that is a tough one because there's a lot of advice out there, and it's
Mhm.
really
That's why
like,
I'm asking you.
so I guess my advice for finding maintenance, you got to track, and if you don't know your maintenance and you track for a week and you kind of see what goes on, and if it feels good, stick with it. Honestly, as far as finding maintenance, it's really a rough estimate. You're never going to be 100% accurate with it because it can fluctuate day to day. But also, just who cares? We're going to make a new maintenance. With my process, I'm kind of like meet people where they're at, and honestly, we'll just add in to a point where if we're still progressing, we're still getting the goal we want, we're going to keep adding in, and it's just the cycle. I mean, the generalized advice is your body weight times 12, but let's be real, not everybody is built the same.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of just trial and error experimenting with foods and seeing where we're at. But if you're not tracking, you have no idea on how to find it. So you
Yeah.
just gotta feel it out.
Yeah, I know in the beginning I would look at the online calculators, but it goes back to what you were talking about before. You get people that are coming in and they are way under eating. The body's kind of adapted to that, and their maintenance calories are going to be wildly different from somebody else's. Even the calculator can't take into that very individualized biology that we all have.
Yes. Yes, and it doesn't account for muscle mass. That's the biggest thing
Mhm.
that because it's crazy. I'm technically obese, but I literally this morning I for the first time could see my obliques coming in. So it's like crazy. Like, yeah, I'm obese, but I can see my obliques starting. You know,
Right.
how does that work?
I don't my husband, well, he's just getting he's retiring now, from the military, but he still would have to go in for his regular the physical fitness assessments, and he's like, "Yep, you gotta get roped and choked," because he's a big guy, very muscular, and he goes way over what they say that you should be at his height, like probably 10, 15 pounds over. And so he has to get, the measurement of around the neck and everything and for them to be like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
you just have a lot of muscle. But technically,
Yep.
according to them, he's obese, but has visible abs.
Yeah, it's insane. I just like the BMI, I don't know. Like I don't know how I feel about that metric. Like
That
I
just
just
needs
feel
to go
like
out the
it
door.
is way overused,
Yeah.
especially like doctors, like that was the big thing with my doctor, with that gut health doctor I was seeing. She's just like, you're at this and you should be this. And it's like, I'm doing just fine. Thank you very much. But, and that
Hmm.
was like, but hearing that enough from a doctor, it's like, oh, that can drive you into some crazy behavior.
Yeah, I wish that our healthcare system was a lot more conducive to patients with setting them up with professionals who actually specialize in this. I mean, doctors, they have their specialties and a lot of knowledge and a lot of other things, but not necessarily when it comes to what we do,
Yeah.
and moving your body and certain and all that stuff. So I wish that our healthcare system was different in that regards, where people could get the financial support to go and really move the needle for themselves, but I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, and I see that around here a lot. I don't know how it is in your area, but it seems like whenever somebody comes to a doctor for fat loss, it's becoming the standard of care to prescribe a GLP-1. And I feel
Mm,
like that is irresponsible if you're not
mm,
educating them and teaching them, hey, you need to be strength training. You still have to eat for this because this is basically what people don't realize is it is an appetite suppressant. And that's a big
mhm.
reason why people are successful with it. But you also still have to fuel your body. You have to work out. You have to have the foundational habits, or you're just going to lose a bunch of muscle. And I've seen it. I've had a client come to me after doing Wegovy, and she had like no muscle. She put on like 30 pounds of fat, like over the course of time. And it's like, I had to get her back to baseline after this. And it's just like, holy crap. It's
Yeah,
scary to see the damage it does if you're not, prepared and have those habits in place. And I just feel like there needs to be more guidance with that.
agreed. And obviously, we could do a whole other podcast on that. But yeah, it could be such a great tool, and it truly has turned into a really great tool with because there's such a systemic effect with the benefit from the GLP-1s that are out there, with how it helps with so much stuff. But like you said,
Mhm.
it's not when there aren't the systems in place for them to one just actually fix the lifestyle that got them there in the first place, so they don't go right back to the same thing within a couple years and gain back all the weight, if not more, according to the studies once they stop. But also the effect of it. I had a friend reach out who had thought about using it at one point, and then she hit me up and said, okay, I just had a friend come over and like she's lost a ton of weight. She looks awful, and she's asleep on my couch right now after we just had dinner because she just doesn't have the energy, and she's like, "I've totally thought this whole thing." And I'm like, "She kinda looks like a melted candle," and she's like, "Yes, that's it." But you lose all that muscle and stuff, but I know it just we got a lot of work to do, my friend. We got
Oh,
a lot of
yes.
work to do.
Yes.
Well, okay, so we'll start to wrap this up. I have one question for you, but I want to hear what's the craziest gym story you have to share with us.
Craziest. Oh God. There's a lot of people that I will see that are trying to lift way more than they possibly should. So I've seen people lifting way too much, like deadlifting 400 pounds, barely getting an inch off the floor there. Then they realize after, thank God, before they kill themselves. I mean, hey, let's drop some plates. But yeah, seriously, like straight up trying to lift 4 plates. But yeah, this is where your progressive overload should come into play. Start light. If you feel like you have good control, then you can move up. But yeah, I just see way too many people trying to ego lift. It's okay, you can drop it down, learn the form because you're just gonna wind up hurting yourself or burning yourself out. Too many people try to start way too fast.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson for everybody. If you're going in there just trying to impress everybody and you're going to ego lift, do yourself a favor. Stop. Don't do that. Because at the very least, well, at the very most, you're going to hurt yourself. At the very least, you're going to become somebody's story.
Yes, and you'll probably wind up burning out and quitting because you're gonna realize you're not the big man anymore. It's just like eventually that'll wear on you and you're not gonna make any progress.
Yeah, no. All right, Brian, I have taken enough of your time for the day. I am so happy that I got to have you on on the show here. It's been a long time coming, but thank you so much for coming on here. And where can people find you?
Yeah, the Brian Hurst 86 on Instagram. I also have a TikTok. I'm not as active on there, but Brian.Hurst27 on TikTok. And then I also have my Facebook community, 906 Uplifted or Uplifted Fitness on Facebook.
All right, great. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for being here on True Grit. I truly appreciate it. If this episode sparked something in you, share it, subscribe, or leave a quick review. It helps more people find these conversations. For more ways to connect, head to true-grit.fitness or come say hi on Instagram at true.grit_bold.wellness. I'll see you next time with more stories, lessons, and a little bit of grit.